welcome to Pixels and People. My name is Edward and this is Hidden Gems. In this series I usually focus on a game from history that has kind of fallen by the wayside a little bit, but because this is the first video back for a while, I wanted to go a bit bigger, so I am looking at an entire console, namely the Game Gear from SEGA. Now, I actually own one of these, but because we're still unpacking boxes, I can't actually locate it to show it to you on video. So here is a little bit of footage from it instead. Now, the Game Gear from SEGA was a handheld console system that was released in October in 1990 in Japan and in April 1991 in North America and Europe, and later in 1992 in Australia. It retailed at £99.99 or $149.99 in America. It was an 8-bit console designed to compete with the Atari Lynx, the NEC Turbo Express, and of course the Nintendo Game Boy. It shared a lot of hardware with the Sega Master System, the third home console from Sega, and was basically kind of adapted and scaled down in order to fit the Game Gear. It is full colour and is backlit as well, giving it superior technology to the other handheld consoles of the 4th generation. However, this superior technology did not really transfer into superior sales. Although it did manage to shift over 10.5 million copies, the Game Boy, that was released only a year prior, and then its predecessor, the Color, managed to shift 118 million units. Oh, and by the way, the Game Gear did actually run until April of 1997. So in 7 years, it didn't do even a tenth of the Game Boy's sales, unfortunately. Now, this was mainly due to the fact that when it was released, it only came with 6 games at launch. Now, there were over 300 games for it by the end of its life cycle. These were mainly Master System ports repurposed for the Game Gear, and then later these were Mega Drive ports when that was released not long after the Game Gear. However, the Game Boy had over 1,000 games. Now, this was mainly because Nintendo were much more willing to work with third parties and get them to publish games for the Game Boy. And Sega didn't really follow this same model, so they had less than a third of the games available for it. So what else could you get with your Game Gear instead of just the games? Well, there was a TV tuner that plugged into the games port. There was also what was called a super wide gear, which was effectively a magnifying screen because the screen on this is quite small, and that just made things a little bit clearer for you. Obviously, this added to the weight, and the Game Gear is already quite a chunky model. Finally, there was also what was called a car gear, which was an adapter that plugged into the cigarette lighter of a car, so you could play your Game Gear on the go instead of wasting all your batteries. Speaking of using your batteries, if you didn't want to use the mains adapter, which as the console got older got very pernickety, and mine actually doesn't really work at all now, as soon as you nudge or knock the console even slightly, it completely cuts off. So you're left with using 6 AA batteries instead, and believe me, it bleeds through these. Again, by comparison, the Game Boy only requires, I believe, 4, might even be 2, but I'm pretty sure it was 4, and it's much more economical with the power. So yes, unfortunately, due to limited games for it, and the fact that it's a lot less user-friendly, it just wasn't on par with the Nintendo Game Boy and just couldn't compete in the handheld market. As we can tell, Nintendo have gone on to basically dominate the handheld market, besting everything that has even come close. The closest other challenger being the Sony PlayStation Portable, but it easily beat out that because Sony just didn't really back the PSP. much in the same way that Sega just didn't really back the Game Gear the way it needed to be backed, unfortunately. But for me personally, it holds a very, very important place in my heart. It is the first handheld console I ever owned, and may even be the first console I ever owned. I got it around the same time I got the Super Nintendo, and I'm not entirely sure which one I got first, so it may very well be the Game Gear. All I remember is hours and hours and hours of my childhood playing this console and enjoying it immensely. Mainly because I really, really like Sega, but I didn't have a Mega Drive and my sister wouldn't let me always play her Master System, so this was the only Sega gaming I could get my hands on. But that is all for now on the Game Gear. I will be returning with Hidden Gems later in the year and focusing more specifically on games rather than consoles. But because this is the 60th anniversary of Sega, I will be revisiting them as the year goes on as well, doing a few more information and discussion videos, as well as digging out some Sega consoles and games to have a bit of a playthrough with as well. So make sure you subscribe to the channel so you do not miss any of that action. But for now, this has been Pixels and Pinfalls. I've been Edward, and I will see you very soon. Goodbye. Thanks very much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. To keep up to speed with everything we're doing, you can find us on Facebook and follow us on Twitter. If you wish to support us financially, you can do so over on Patreon for as little as $1 per month. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and ring the bell icon so that you don't miss out on any future videos. Till next time, we'll see you very soon. Goodbye.